My friends, listen to me carefully. When you look at the world today, when you see the headlines, when you hear about the rising tensions, the broken trust, the shattered opportunities, you must understand something. History can be shaped not by nations, not by armies, but sometimes by the actions of a single individual. One person with arrogance, with greed, with short-sightedness, can tear down what generations built with sweat, sacrifice, and vision. That is what we are seeing. The bridge between two of the greatest democracies on earth, the United States and India, has been shaken, not by the will of the people, not by the soldiers, not by the leaders who dreamed of cooperation, but by one reckless decision, one selfish act, one betrayal of responsibility. But here's the truth. You cannot just sit back and say, oh, this is politics, this is diplomacy. I have no part in this. No, that's the mindset of weakness. That's the mindset of people who give up their power. You must recognize that every single one of us has influence. Every single one of us is a builder of bridges or a destroyer of trust. If one man can weaken the bond between two nations, then millions of us together can rebuild it stronger than ever. The United States and India are not just countries, they are symbols. Symbols of freedom, of democracy, of opportunity. They represent dreams. The dream of a young immigrant landing in New York with nothing but hope. The dream of a young child in Mumbai working hard to rise above poverty. These dreams are connected. These dreams are powerful. And when they unite, when these nations stand shoulder to shoulder, nothing in the world can stop them. Not dictators, not enemies, not fear. But when ego, corruption, and betrayal enter the game, those dreams are threatened. You have to ask yourself, do you want to live in a world where trust between nations is destroyed, where opportunity is lost because of the mistakes of a single person? Or do you want to live in a world where you rise up, where you take action, where you say, I will not allow this to happen, I will rebuild trust, I will create unity, I will carry the torch forward? The easy road is always to complain, to point fingers, to say, oh, it's ruined, nothing can be done. But let me tell you something. Nothing great in history was achieved by complaining. It was achieved by action, by courage, by standing up and saying, I refuse to be powerless. You have the power to educate yourself, to demand truth, to speak for unity, to push back against lies and corruption. You have the power to be a builder, not a destroyer. So today, I challenge you. Don't just listen. Don't just nod your head. Do something. Talk about the value of trust. Share the vision of cooperation. Defend the bond between nations that should be partners, not rivals. Live your life as a daily example of integrity, honesty, and responsibility. Because when millions live this way, the actions of one destructive individual are nothing compared to the strength of united people. When you look at the history of mankind, you will always see the same lesson repeated over and over. One individual can cause damage beyond imagination. One decision, one betrayal, one moment of arrogance can destroy trust that took decades, even centuries, to build. That is the terrifying power of a single person's action. But here is the truth you must understand. If one person has the power to break, then millions of us together have the power to build. It means that destruction is never final. It means that betrayal is never the end. It means that no matter how deep the wound, there is always the possibility to heal. If enough people decide to take responsibility, and that is why you cannot sit quietly and say, this is not my problem, because it is your problem. It is everyone's problem. Trust between nations, between communities, between people is like a bridge, strong when supported by many, but vulnerable when neglected. If a single individual has shaken that bridge, then the rest of us must rush to repair it, strengthen it, and make it unbreakable. Think about it in your own life. Maybe someone lied to you. Maybe someone betrayed you. Maybe you lost faith because of one person's action. Did that mean the entire world was corrupt? Did that mean you should stop trusting, stop dreaming, stop building? It meant you had to rise up and remind yourself that there are more good people than bad. It meant you had to rebuild your faith through action, through discipline, through persistence. The same applies here. The destruction caused by one individual can never outweigh the construction possible by millions with the right mindset. Because while one person's greed is small, the courage of united people is limitless. I want you to imagine two nations standing like giants, side by side, full of potential, full of dreams, full of ambition. Their cooperation could change the world. Their unity could inspire billions. But then comes the act of one man, tearing apart the trust, throwing shadows on the relationship, creating doubt, fear, suspicion. In that moment, everything seems broken. But let me tell you something. It is not broken. It is only challenged, and challenges exist to be overcome. This is the mindset of champions. You don't look at an obstacle and say, this is the end. You look at it and say, this is my chance to grow stronger. So when trust is broken, you don't sit in the ashes of disappointment. You get up, you gather your strength, you unite with others who believe in the same vision, and together you rebuild. The power of unity is greater than the power of destruction. A storm can knock down trees, but a forest will always grow back stronger. A fire can burn a house, but a city will always rebuild. And the betrayal of one person can shake relations between nations, but the will of millions can restore them with greater strength. It requires patience, it requires discipline, and it requires belief. Belief that no matter how strong the force of destruction is, the force of creation will always be stronger when people unite. This is why you must never underestimate your role. You may think, I am just one person. What can I do? But that is exactly the mistake that allows destruction to spread. Because if one person can cause harm, then one person can also cause healing. Your voice matters, your choices matter, your example matters. When you choose honesty, you inspire honesty in others. When you choose integrity, you inspire integrity in others. When you choose unity, you inspire unity in others. And soon the actions of one destructive person are drowned out by the actions of millions who stand together for something greater. True power is often misunderstood in this world. People think it comes from the seat you sit on, from the office you hold, from the title that is printed next to your name, or from the authority others give you. But that is not true power. That is borrowed power, fragile power, power that disappears the moment you lose the position. Real power comes from the choices you make every single day. Real power comes from how you act when nobody is watching, from the decisions that shape your character, from the courage to do what is right even when it is unpopular, or even dangerous. That is the power that lasts, that inspires, that cannot be taken away from you. When you look at history, you see kings, presidents, prime ministers, and generals rise and fall. They sit in positions of authority, but the moment they are gone, their influence fades, because they never built their legacy on choices rooted in truth. But then you see those who lived with discipline, who lived with integrity, who chose to act with courage regardless of their title. These are the ones who are remembered. These are the ones who inspire generations long after their time has passed. Why? Because true power is not in the throne. It is in the heart of the person who decides every day to be responsible, to be courageous, to be honest. Think about this. Every time you wake up in the morning, you are faced with choices. You can choose laziness, or you can choose discipline. You can choose excuses, or you can choose action. You can choose fear, or you can choose courage. And each choice builds you, or destroys you. Every single choice is a brick in the foundation of your life. And while titles come and go, that foundation is forever. That is why you must understand the strength you already hold in your hands. You don't need to be a president or a prime minister to make a difference. You don't need to be the CEO of a company to change the world. You just need to decide every single day to take responsibility for your actions and to live with integrity. That is the kind of power that can change nations. Look at the relationship between two countries. Treat it like a relationship between two people. If trust is broken, it is not the titles or the offices that repair it, it is the choices made by individuals. Leaders may shake hands in front of cameras, but it is the daily choices of millions of citizens that truly define the bond. Do they choose honesty in business? Do they choose fairness in trade? Do they choose respect in their communities? These are the choices that create real unity, real strength. And this is what many people forget. They think only leaders decide the fate of nations. No, the people do. And the people's power comes not from titles, but from choices. Even in your personal life. How many times have you seen someone hide behind a title, acting as if their position makes them strong? They demand respect. They command fear. But the moment they lose their authority, everyone forgets them, sometimes even despises them. That is not strength. That is weakness disguised as power. True respect is earned by the way you live, not the title you carry. True influence is built by consistency, not by the chair you sit in. That is why when the trust between nations is damaged, the real solution lies not in the temporary power of individuals with titles, but in the permanent power of millions of people who make the right choices every day. So you must understand, you're never powerless. Even if you think you have no influence, even if you think you are just one person, the truth is you hold the most important kind of power, the power of choice. And when you use that power with discipline, with responsibility, with vision, you become unstoppable. You become the kind of person who inspires others to rise, the kind of person who rebuilds trust, the kind of person who carries forward the strength of nations through personal action. That is the power that cannot be destroyed, because it does not depend on external recognition. It depends only on your decision to act with courage and integrity every single day. Unity between nations is not some abstract idea. It is a reflection of the unity that begins within us and in the way we live our lives. When two great countries come together, it is not only the leaders shaking hands or signing agreements that create strength. It is the millions of small actions, the countless moments of trust, the willingness of people to cooperate, to understand, and to respect one another that make the partnership real. The bond between nations is a mirror of the bonds between individuals, between communities, between families. And when those bonds are broken, when division takes over, it always begins the same way, with the small cracks of mistrust, with selfishness, with the refusal to see beyond personal gain. But when unity is alive, it creates something unstoppable, something greater than the sum of its parts. Think about your own life for a moment. How strong are you when you are isolated, when you are fighting battles alone, when you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders with no one to lean on? You can be strong for a while, but eventually the burden becomes heavy. Now compare that to the strength you feel when you have support, when you have a team, when you know that others stand with you. That is when your power multiplies. That is when your energy grows. This is the same truth for a nation alone. A country may be strong, but united with another, its strength is magnified beyond imagination. And when two great democracies share trust, they create a force so powerful that it inspires the entire world. But unity is not automatic. It does not happen just because leaders declare it or because agreements are written on paper. Unity is built through daily choices, through respect, through discipline. It is built when people decide not to focus on division, but to focus on common goals. In the same way, the unity in your personal life is not automatic. You must work for it. You must put aside ego, pride, and selfishness. to create trust with others. The more unity you create in your own life, the more prepared you are to contribute to the unity of the world. The same discipline you use to strengthen your body, to train your mind, to focus on your goals, that discipline must also be used to strengthen your relationships. Because a divided life is a weak life, but a united life is a powerful one. When one act of betrayal shakes the trust between nations, it is like a mirror reflecting the same struggles we face in our personal lives. One lie can damage a friendship. One broken promise can hurt a family. One selfish action can destroy trust in a team. But just as we know how to rebuild in our personal lives, we also know how nations can rebuild their unity. It starts with accountability, with honesty, with the courage to admit mistakes and the determination to restore what has been lost. This is why the strength of nations depends not only on the decisions of leaders, but on the character of their people. Because unity at the highest level is built on unity at the smallest level. When you train in the gym, every rep you do builds strength. Every set you finish makes you stronger. The same way, every act of respect, every choice of honesty, every decision to work together builds unity. It is like training the muscles of trust. Over time, those muscles become powerful, unshakable. So when you hear about trust being broken between countries, remember that the repair starts with us. Remember that the unity you create in your family, in your work, in your friendships, becomes part of the larger force of unity in the world. And just as a strong body is built with consistent training, a strong bond between nations is built with consistent choices of respect, trust, and cooperation. This is the reason why you cannot ignore the small things. Unity is not built in one big action. It is built in the discipline of everyday life. The way you treat people who are different from you, the way you handle conflict, the way you choose integrity when you could take shortcuts, all of these small actions matter. They are not only shaping your life, they are shaping the culture of your community, and ultimately they are shaping the relationships of nations. Because the world is nothing more than a reflection of what we all choose to do together. And unity on the global stage is only possible when unity is alive in the daily actions of individuals who refuse to let division win. Complaining achieves nothing, because complaining is the language of weakness, the mindset of those who choose to surrender instead of taking control. Anyone can sit in the corner, point fingers, and say, "This is wrong, that is unfair, nothing ever works." But tell me, what changes when you complain? Nothing. The world does not bend to complaints. The world bends to action. Action is what shapes reality. Action is what builds trust. Action is what rebuilds bridges that have been broken. Every great achievement in history, every transformation of society, every bond between nations that survived hardship was built not by those who whined about the problem, but by those who decided to take action and fix it. It is easy to complain. It costs nothing. It requires no discipline, no sacrifice, no courage, but action. Action demands everything. It demands that you step into the arena, that you face obstacles, that you endure setbacks, that you put your energy where your mouth is. This is why so many choose the path of complaining. It is safe. It makes you feel like you are doing something, when in reality you are doing nothing at all. But champions, leaders, visionaries, they do not waste their time on complaint. They see a problem, they take responsibility, and they move forward with solutions. Think about your own life. How many times have you wasted hours or even days complaining about something you could have changed if you had simply taken action? You complain about being out of shape, but instead of training, you talk about how busy you are. You complain about your career, but instead of learning new skills, you talk about how unfair the system is. You complain about broken trust between people, between nations, between leaders. But instead of becoming a force of unity, you repeat the same negative cycle that weakens everything. The truth is harsh but clear. Complaining is the habit of the powerless, while action is the habit of the powerful. When trust between nations is destroyed by the act of one person, you have two choices. You can complain about betrayal, about injustice, about how everything is falling apart, or you can take action to rebuild, to restore, to make it stronger than it was before. That is the choice every generation has faced. After wars, after disasters, after betrayals, humanity has always been given two paths, one of despair, one of determination. The nations and the people who choose determination are the ones who rise. They are the ones who inspire the future. They are the ones who prove that action will always defeat complaint. The same principle applies in the gym. You can stand in front of the mirror, complain about how weak you look, complain about how far you are from your goals, complain about how unfair life has been, or you can put on your shoes, pick up the weights, and take action. Every rep, every set, every drop of sweat is an action that brings you closer to strength. Complaining makes you weaker, but action makes you stronger. Nations are no different. A broken relationship cannot be healed by endless discussions of what went wrong. It can only be healed by the hard work of building trust again, by the consistent actions that prove integrity, that prove reliability, that prove strength. And here is the truth. The world remembers the builders, not the complainers. History does not celebrate those who whined about their problems. It celebrates those who confronted them and turned them into victories. The power of action is limitless because it transforms weakness into strength, loss into opportunity, division into unity. Every time you choose action over complaint, you step closer to becoming a leader. You step closer to creating change. You step closer to being the kind of person who can rebuild what others have broken. This is why action is the greatest weapon you will ever have, because it is the only thing that can shape the future into something better than the past.